Oh, it looks like some attendees are here. Yay! Also, oh, one thing to keep in mind for everybody, some of the people here may have never heard of citizen science before. So but I have that in my slides, so it should be good.
Yeah.
Sharing to my page. SciStarter. I'll monitor the live stream as well, just so we can keep track of those folks too.
Yep.
All right, and it looks like our live stream is going live. Done. Perfect. All right, we are live on Facebook. And for the people joining us on Zoom, don't be shy. Put your questions in the chat. You can use the Q&A box as well. For those of you watching on Facebook, we're going to be monitoring that and keeping track of you over there. I'm going to go ahead and drop the Facebook live stream link in the chat just so everybody has it, because that's the easiest way to get to the recording of this event after the fact. If you're looking to share it with friends and family, looking to share it with your network, so you can just grab that link and you'll be good to go. We're going to get started in about 3 minutes. We just want to give people some time to filter in. Let's see, I'm going to go ahead and get this link shared to all the different Facebook pages, because why not? We want to spread the word as much as possible. I was looking at some of the registration statistics beforehand, and obviously the majority of people who registered are from Australia and New Zealand, but we also had quite a few people from the States and other countries as well. So just kind of cool on that front. I like it when people from around the world want to peek in and see how folks in other places do things. So that's one thing to keep in mind as well, as you all are talking about what you do. You might inspire other people globally. Okay, let's get this in the citizen science group. We'll also get it in the Australian citizen science group. We have 2 minutes till start time, which is great. Posting it. And for those of you who have already joined on Zoom, feel free to let us know in the chat where you're calling in from. That's always super exciting to me. I think I hear a little bit of an echo, Michelle. If you want to go on mute until you're ready for your part, perfect. All right, 2 minutes till start time. We're still sharing out this live stream link. Get excited, everyone. This is also meant to be conversational. This is meant to be a fun event for you. So you can, if you know you already have a question, you can go ahead and throw it into the chat. We're here to listen. We're here to cheer you on. Get excited about the citizen science work. And for me, it's still April 1st in my time zone. So this is an event that I'm using to help kick off the month with a bang. So this is one of the first events I wanted to do. I thought it would just be a lot of fun. Michelle and I always have a really great time together. So here we are. Okay, we have 1 minute till start time. I'm going to go ahead and get my slides up. All right, and I'm seeing more people join the Zoom, which is great. All right, everybody, give us a second. We're going to give it 1 more minute until we start. People are popping in. This is great. And all right, we're off. We're right at the hour. I want to get through my slides pretty fast so we can get to our presenters today. But hello, everyone, to people watching on Zoom and people watching on Facebook, as well as folks who might be watching the recording. We're so happy you're here. This is Citizen Science in Australia and New Zealand. It's April 2nd. In certain parts of the world, April 1st and others, but we're doing this event to help kick off Citizen Science Month in April. Before I introduce my friends on the line from Australia and New Zealand, I'm just going to very briefly talk a little bit about SciStarter and Citizen Science Month and the wider effort this event is a part of. So I know some folks who are watching today might be new to this whole concept of citizen science. It goes by a few different names. Some people call it community science, some people call it neighborhood science. We tend to go with citizen science at SciStarter. Ultimately, what it is is it's a collaboration between scientists and those of us who are curious, concerned, and motivated to make a difference. Or another way we like to say it is citizen science allows anybody and everybody to turn their curiosity about the world into real scientific impact. And people most often participate in citizen science by collecting or analyzing data for research projects. And what is data? Data is just information. Data can be words and pictures that you take. Data can be, classifications or annotations you make on large amounts of information, like the stall catchers project. People note whether or not a blood vessel is stalled or flowing, and by making that small annotation, they're helping Alzheimer's researchers test different things related to the disease. So you're going to hear about some awesome examples of citizen science in Australia and New Zealand tonight. And I just love the fact that this field is so diverse. There's citizen science on every continent, including Antarctica. We actually talked to some of the folks from Antarctica earlier today with their phytoplankton citizen science project. So that was really cool. There's citizen science for every type of scientific discipline, everything from entomology, the study of bugs, to health research, to astronomy, everything in between. There is citizen science for every type of science. You can be a part of the scientific enterprise no matter who you are, where you are, how old you are, your skill level. There's a way you can be a part of it, and you can make a difference and understand new things about the world. And at SciStarter, we're a global organization, and we connect citizen scientists to over 2,000 projects, events, and tools. So people will add their projects to SciStarter when they're seeking participants, and participants from all around the world will make SciStarter accounts and come to SciStarter to keep track of different projects they're joining and to discover new opportunities to get involved in different citizen science projects. Most often, you find a project on SciStarter and then you go somewhere else to do it. An example is iNaturalist. iNaturalist is an app and a website where you submit biodiversity data. You're going to hear about that tonight through the different BioBlitz programs, which is really exciting. I think the way folks do it in Australia is super cool, and I'm excited to learn from them. But you can find iNaturalist on SciStarter, and you see its SciStarter profile, and then you go somewhere else to participate. It's also a place where you can add an event like this one, where you're featuring different citizen science perspectives, and people can find this event and join it and learn something new. Citizen Science Month is really just an excuse to celebrate all this stuff. You can do citizen science any day of the year, but we just really kick it into another gear in April. There are events and featured projects and fun every single day of this month. Today was particularly awesome. We had the Citizen Science Twitter conference that Michelle, it was her brainchild. She really brought it into being. So if you go to SciTC on Twitter, to that Twitter account, you're going to see some really, really cool stuff from people all around the world tweeting about what they do with citizen science. We had that webinar I mentioned earlier. Other people had events at libraries, at community centers, and so much more. And Citizen Science Month is supported by Arizona State University, the Network of the National Library of Medicine, the All of Us Research Program, SciStarter, and many other partners from around the world. So a bunch of people come together to make this happen for volunteers worldwide. So the All of Us Research Program, I just wanted to briefly play this video because this event tonight wouldn't be possible without them. They help provide support for my time to help host this event. So we're just going to briefly play it. This project is more geared to folks in the States, but what they're doing with precision medicine will have an impact worldwide. So we're just going to briefly play this video. Let me make sure my sound is sharing too. That would be a rookie mistake. There we go. Okay.
Meet Ray. Ray lives on a farm. He loves playing kickball with his grandkids. Meet Ray. Ray lives on a farm. He loves playing kickball with his grandkids, but lately he's gotten a little slower and been visiting the doctor a lot more often. This is Kim. Kim lives in the city. She loves to exercise, cook healthy meals, and can't remember the last time she called in sick. They're both people, but not all people are the same. And yet, when we visit the doctor, our treatments don't look that different. Why is that? Because we just don't have enough information to do it better, until now. Enter All of Us, the research program based on precision medicine. Precision medicine is a revolutionary new approach to treating and preventing disease that's personalized instead of one size fits all. By gathering health data from 1 million people like Ray and Kim and Trevor and Samir, our country's best researchers will be able to develop treatments that are as unique and complex as we are. With this new information, doctors will have a better understanding of disease so they can innovate the next great breakthroughs in medicine. Once enough people join, suddenly everything changes. Information becomes clear, patterns emerge, and simple data transforms into life-saving knowledge. This means that Ray and Kim's children and their children's children can live longer, healthier lives. By becoming one of the first 1 million people to volunteer, you can help reshape the entire future of healthcare for generations to come. If we can figure out how to fly, put a man on the moon, and connect the entire world, surely we should be able to improve the future of healthcare. Not just for Ray and Kim or even you, but for all of us. Sign up at joinallofus.org. The future of health begins. Meet Ray.
Anyway, now you all saw that it's a project more for the States, but they're doing some interesting stuff in precision medicine. So watch that space. There might be some cool innovations that have an impact worldwide. And a huge thank you to them for making Citizen Science Month possible and allowing and supporting me to host events like this and promotional support especially. But if you want to find more stuff like this, you can go to citizensciencemonth.org. You can check out all the cool event resources, some social media tiles, things like that. There are a bunch of other global online events that you can attend. And you can, if you have something hyper-local, just like in your town, in your community, you can add it here as well. Some featured projects. I See Change, you can do anywhere in the world. Same with Stalkers, Eterna, Globe at Night. I think there's a really cool constellation actually for the Southern Hemisphere for Globe at Night for this month's campaign. So go check that one out if you like astronomy and want to help study light pollution. And of course, it is April. So let's party. I wouldn't want to kick it off with anyone else. So I'm going to stop sharing here. I'm going to have our panel introduce themselves. And then we'll get to Thomas's presentation first. So maybe Michelle, if you want to go first and just kind of quickly introduce yourself.
Sure. G'day everyone. My name is Michelle Neal. You probably know me online as SciGeek. I'm the Motley crew leader somewhat here in Australia. I'm involved with the Australian Citizen Science Association as their social media moderator and curator in a volunteer capacity. In my day job, I'm an analytical chemist, just something different. My job is not at all to do with anything at all considering the environment or anything like that. So it's really nice for me to get out and do citizen science. My kids actually started me on this bench. The oldest one is actually sitting over there at the moment. He's now 13. He was 1.5 when I started this journey. But yeah, I'd like to introduce some of my friends here as well. And thanks to Caroline and SciStarter for Citizen Science Month. Over to Thomas.
Hey, I'm Thomas. I'm a PhD student in Sydney at the University of New South Wales, working mostly on plants and a lot of citizen science related data. So I spend most of my time on iNaturalist. I'm a curator on iNaturalist, forum moderator on the discussion forum as well. And yeah, a lot of my research either uses or analyzes citizen science data, especially those from iNaturalist.
All right, and Siobhan, if you want to introduce yourself.
Kia ora koutou katoa. I'm Siobhan Leachman. I am a New Zealand citizen scientist who also does a lot on iNaturalist. I'm also a Wikipedian, and I'm a digital curator of biodiversity data. Basically, that's a fancy way of saying I really like contributing to Wikidata, which is another project in the wiki sphere of projects. Yeah, so that's me.
Yay. Okay, so I think the way we're going to do it is we'll have everyone present and then we'll pause at the end for questions for everybody. That being said, if you're watching on Facebook or on Zoom and you have a really burning question, go ahead and throw it into the chat or in the comments and we'll try to get to it earlier. But I think the easiest way to do it is just get through the presentations and then we can engage in an interesting conversation together. So Thomas, you are up first. Let's hear what you have to say.
So hopefully some of the people at least in the presentation have heard of iNaturalist. But for those who haven't, I'll definitely go through a broad perspective and introduction to the platform as well. iNaturalist is, I mean, the numbers I don't think have been quite analyzed, but in my opinion, it is the biggest biodiversity citizen science platform in the world, especially if you look at metrics like number of users and number of species observed. So it is truly a global platform. It doesn't matter where you are in the world, you can contribute. And it also doesn't matter what you want to observe, whether it's plants, animals, bacteria, fungi, you name it, you can upload it to iNaturalist. And I think that's one of the most fantastic things about the platform is it is essentially all-encompassing. It's very, very easy to sign up. It takes 2 minutes to create an account. It's entirely free. So that's another fantastic thing about iNaturalist, is that it's very accessible no matter where you are in the world. As long as you have an internet connection and some kind of device like a mobile phone or a computer, then as I said, it takes 2 minutes to sign up and away you go. So iNaturalist is available as both a smartphone app, as well as you can use it on your desktop, on your computer. Whilst the smartphone app is good if you're out on the go and you're in the field and you want that bit more accessibility, I do highly recommend using the desktop version as much as you can, because it has far more functionality and it's a lot easier to use and a lot more intuitive to use, especially for a lot of new users. So overall, that desktop version just has a whole lot more interesting features that make your iNaturalist experience a lot more enjoyable and a lot more powerful in terms of exploring and uploading data. So largely, iNaturalist has a very simple process involving two main things, and that's observations and identifications. So how it works is you're a citizen scientist, you go out, you go on a walk. This could be anywhere. So this could be just into your backyard, looking under pot plants, turning over leaves. You could be going out to the most remote national park. It doesn't matter where you are, you're going to find biodiversity. So you're out there and you've taken photographs, right? You can also take sound recordings as long as in some way you are recording evidence of an interaction with an organism. You then upload those to iNaturalist. And from there, you have this amazing global community that are able to identify those records for you. Now, of course, many of you, when you take photographs, you'll know exactly what you saw, especially if it's something like a common bird or a plant you're very, very familiar with. But the really fantastic thing about iNaturalist is if you have absolutely no idea what you saw, you have this incredible community of literally hundreds of thousands, millions of other passionate naturalists from around the entire world that are able to identify those records for you. So once that community has chipped in and helped identify your observations, one of the most gratifying things I find about iNaturalist is that your data actually then gets exported to external databases. So from a global perspective, your observations go to platforms like the Global Biodiversity Information Facility, which is the biggest biodiversity data aggregator in the world. And from an Australian perspective, we have platforms like the Atlas of Living Australia, which is effectively the Australian node of GBIF. So once your records go into these platforms and many more, they're actually able to be used in real life research and conservation by scientists, which I always find to be a really amazing thing, that your observation and your photograph of a random bird or a plant that you might see walking along the street could actually contribute to meaningful studies that help preserve our species and develop a better understanding of them. So as you can see from the numbers here and what I've already mentioned, iNaturalist is certainly pumping out the observations at an increasingly exponential rate. So if we look across the world, as of yesterday, we've just recently ticked over 130 million observations, contributed by more than 2.5 million users, and getting close to almost 500,000 species observed. So this is really an incredible effort. And indeed, if you look at a lot of the statistics and you look at the percentage of records that make up, I should say, if you look at the percentage of INAT records in the total percentage of GBIF records, that percentage is constantly increasing. And if you take out some of the really common groups like birds, which have a lot of other citizen science platforms like eBird, then iNaturalist data actually dominates for many, many species. And from an Australian perspective, we're up there as one of the big players as well. Now, of course, the US is out on top. They have a much, much bigger population and far more iNaturalists at this point in time, but Australia and New Zealand are certainly some of the big players and are in the top 10 contributing countries for iNaturalist. And just like the global statistics, constantly increasing at an exponential rate, no matter which metric you look at as well. So there's no better time to get on board than now. So one of the most fantastic things I find about iNaturalist is this positive feedback loop. So this is a figure that I created for a paper that I published a few years ago, looking at iNaturalist data in Australia. And it's this amazing way in which the community is able to learn and self-improve. So the really core part is experts joining iNaturalist. So of course you have many people on iNaturalist that are just amateur enthusiasts and who don't necessarily have professional training or experience in the natural sciences, but you also have many professional experts. So these could be ecologists, taxonomists, museum curators from all around the world. And they have this incredible knowledge that they have built up over their careers. So you have more experts join iNaturalist. They identify records for the citizen scientists. And in doing so, they also teach the citizen scientists how to identify those observations in the future and for the next time they see those species. So with that in mind, the citizen scientists are then able to make better and more well-informed identifications themselves. They then become far more excited to see those species in the future because they know they'll be able to identify them. So they put up more and more records. These records are not only increasing in number, but they're also increasing in the veracity of the identifications, which means the data quality across the platform improves, which then acts as a really nice bait, for want of a better word, to attract more experts. So the higher the data quality is on the platform, the more likely many experts are going to be willing to contribute their time. And so you have this incredible positive feedback loop where more experts join, the citizen scientists become more enthused and able to learn and improve their own skills, and then the data quality improves and so on. So this is a really amazing thing that requires both parties to come to the fore. So it's this really amazing collaborative process. Just to round out my talk, I could speak for hours here about iNaturalists. I'll try to get to just some of the most important things. And one of those, I think, is this concept of projects. So you have iNaturalist as this very broad platform, but within iNaturalist, you have what are effectively these sub-platforms, and these are called projects. And what these are, they're ways of organizing observations with some kind of common theme into one repository so that it's easy to find all those observations in one place. So this common theme can be one or a combination of things. It can be based on a taxonomic group. So you could have a project that includes all butterflies, for example. It could be based on a geographic theme. So you could look at just things from the Canary Islands. It could be based on a set of dates or times. So that is generally what you would use for a BioBlitz. So maybe you're only collecting data over a particular weekend. Or it could be a combination of all of those things. So maybe you want to look at butterflies from the Canary Islands only in the first week of January. And so it's this great way of organizing the data into smaller, more manageable chunks that are able to attract people with a particular interest for that flavor of data. So I'll just go through 4 very brief examples here, 2 from a global perspective, and then 2 from an Australian perspective. So this is a really cool project that I started up a couple of years ago based on a forum discussion where people were interested in having some kind of common repository for images of very rare species. And so I started this project where people can upload photographs where those images are the first ever anywhere online, not just in iNaturalist, the first ever, and indeed many of them, the only photographs of those species alive in the wild. So many species of plants and insects, for example, will have photographs of specimens that are either pinned or they're preserved herbarium sheets. But those photographs often don't convey important information like color, which can be lost over time, the orientation of the organism, how they're interacting with other species and in their environment, what their habitat is like. All of those things are very well addressed by photographs in the field when those organisms are alive. So we have this amazing set of observations that is constantly increasing. As you can imagine, many of these are poorly known insects from areas like New Guinea or South America. We actually published a paper a couple of years ago looking specifically at the butterflies in the project. So there are actually several hundred, probably getting close to 1,000 now, photographs of butterflies in this project, where they are the first ever photographs of that butterfly in the wild, which is a pretty cool thing. The second really interesting project is Found Feathers. So this is another amazing global project where if you find a feather anywhere in your travels, you can upload it to iNaturalist, and then you also manually upload it to this project. And you have this awesome community of feather enthusiasts that are amazingly able to pretty much identify any feather, no matter what condition it is, no matter how obscure it looks. I know I've certainly uploaded plenty of little plain, entirely black or white feathers that I thought had no chance, and they managed to get identified to species. And the really cool thing in particular is a lot of the top experts in this project, people that are 16, 17, 20 years old. So these really amazing naturalists that in their very short period of time in this field have already managed to accumulate this amazing amount of knowledge. So just our two Australian examples. So this is a really, really awesome project. So the Found Feathers project is great, but it's more of a personal gratification thing, right? Where you find a feather, you want to find out what it is, and so you upload a photo, and then it kind of stops there. But for many projects, they also have this really profound usefulness for conservation and research. So this is a really great project that was started a number of years ago for Australia for recording animals that had been hit by cars on our roads. So we're now well up over 5,000 records, covering more than 400 species, and we have records from across the entire country. There's also a global roadkill project on Australia. So if you're outside of Australia, you can also join that. And perhaps one of the most valuable things relating to this project is that whenever you add a photograph to it, you're prompted to fill out these 4 additional data fields. So it will ask you how recent the kill was. So you can put in things like killed within the last day, 24 to 48 hours, more than a week old, etc. You can talk about what the roadside habitat was. So were you in a suburban area? Were you in a forest? Were you in agricultural land? You put in the speed limit of the road. And then if it was a marsupial, you can put in whether there was pouch young or not. And a lot of this data has actually already been used in research and conservation and has already actually influenced the implementation of measures like better guardrails and barriers around the edges of roads in Victoria to help protect some of our native wildlife. So this is a project where your observations can actually have a really meaningful difference to some of our native species. And finally, I don't think I could mention iNaturalist projects without the premier Australian project. So Australasian Fishes is by far the biggest and most successful project on iNaturalist for Australia, and indeed one of the most successful anywhere in iNaturalist, no matter the country. So this was largely the project that kickstarted Australian usage of iNaturalist. It was started in 2016 by Mark Magrutha, who was the fishes curator at the Australian Museum. And he is this amazing naturalist who has managed to go around and recruit pretty much every single fish taxonomist and expert from all around the entire country. So this project is great because I should actually clarify as well, it doesn't just cover Australia, it covers New Zealand as well. So if you record any kind of fish, shark or ray anywhere in Australian or New Zealand waters, you can upload it to this project and it will get ID'd straight away. So there's already been a number of publications that have been put out based on this project, and you can see really the impact here. So they recently put out a paper summarizing all of the known fish species from Sydney Harbour. As you can see in the text down there, getting close to 100 of those species were exclusively recorded from citizen science records. So it's this really fantastic platform that kind of combines all the aspects I've been talking about. It's really great for uploading your own records and for your own personal life list and getting your things identified, but it also has that impact where it's actually being used in research, your data. And they're actually really, really valuable records for documenting the ranges of certain fishes, particularly important with our warming oceans, where many fish species are now starting to expand their range and move from the tropical north further south. And so it's really important when you've got so many divers and snorkelers and anglers out there that they're uploading records and really able to document all these changes. So I'll finish up there. And yeah, just remind everyone that iNaturalist is completely free. Doesn't matter where you are in the world, what your level of experience is, it is open to everyone. So the best thing you can do is go out there, take photos of as many things as you can and upload them to iNaturalist, and you never know how important those data may be.
Yay, thank you, Thomas. I have so many questions for you, but I know we're going to save them to the end. Michelle, are you up next?
Yes, thanks, Carolyn. Thank you, Thomas. Now, Thomas is also being extremely modest as well, because he didn't also tell you that he was part of the team last year that won an Eureka Awards for innovation in citizen science using iNaturalist. So Eureka Awards here in Australia are basically our Oscars of science, and they close, the next nominations close at the end, on the 14th of April. So I just thought I'd put that little plug in there on your behalf there, Thomas, and we can talk about that later. But thanks very much, Carolyn. Just going to share my screen. So what I wanted to talk to you all today about is bio-blitzing the Australia way. There we go. Okay, can you see that?
Not yet. We don't
Hang
see
on,
anything
it's
yet.
starting.
Okay, take your time.
I'm on my iPad. It does things a little differently.
Okay, it started.
Okay, cool. All right, so let me just show my screen here. So I wanted to show you what I personally think is the best BioBlitz that I have ever been to. And I've been to a few and I've run my own, but the best ones I find are the Cooloola BioBlitzes. And unfortunately, Randy and Lindy are unable to join us today because they both lost their voice due to illness. Get well soon, guys. So we go up to this, my kids and I go up to this, and my sons just walk past me every year or whenever it's on. The next one is in 2024. The last one was in November, beginning of November last year. Now, Cooloola is different because it is up near Rainbow Beach in southeast Queensland. So the gateway basically to Fraser Island, and Fraser Island is the world's largest sand island. We have a collection project on iNaturalist, and basically what happens is a whole group of us go up there and we bio-blitz the area over a course of 3 days. And we've got an interesting photo gallery as well. There's lots of people come out for it, and you see the same people every year. It's a great community type event. But one of the things I really love is how they organize this. So they'll have team leaders come out, and some of those team leaders, I think the youngest is about 15 or 16 years old. The oldest one is definitely retired. So you can choose which, basically it's a choose your own adventure weekend. You can do nature journaling as well, and Dion Dior does magnificent art program up there too. You've got a data collection with tips and tricks, and a full-on guide on how to do the BioBlitz. There's even mementos and accommodation all set up for you too. Now I'm going to just put this one on, make this large. Now this was our BioBlitz in 2021. I'm not going to play the full one, but just so you get an idea of the scope of the area that happens with this. So this is mostly Wallum and
so every
sand.
part of the area has unique features, unique vegetation and unique species. And it's not very well documented. And of course, to do that would cost a lot of money, and so citizen science is a great way to enlist an army of people to help that scientific process.
Carolyn, can you hear that?
Welcome to the Friday afternoon component of the 2021 Cooloola BioBlitz. My name's Randy Orwin, and I'm the president of Cooloola Coast Care and the resident technology geek. So if you have questions about the technology and things like that, I'm the person that you want to come and chat with. We've got a couple of workshops going. I'm going to talk a little bit about iNaturalist and kind of our goal for the weekend.
A BioBlitz is a group of citizen scientists joining scientists in the field to document every living thing in a particular area. At Kalula, we've taken that and adapted it to be a 48-hour full weekend event where we take lots of people out into the bush with those scientists in small groups, and we document all sorts of species of plants and animals and fungi. So our event started with us recruiting the scientists, and they may be professional scientists, retired scientists, really enthusiastic amateurs who are well known for a particular field, or nature bloggers. So we have a range of people who are our experts, and we sign them up, and then people sign up to join as citizen scientists with us.
So before I begin, I want to acknowledge our bachelor elders, past, present and emerging. I just want to acknowledge and pay my respects to our old people who commenced the struggle so that we can enjoy the opportunities we have today. I'd also like to acknowledge the Gubbi Gubbi people who we share the Kalula Coast area with. And so, Nai Bawa Gara, Jali Bachelor Ja, Galangonyen, Nali Baya, Wanya, Yemen, Wanya Jinangja, Yangalu, Barau Baraugan, Nali Jali, Barangam, Naju, Gawan Naja, Baranga Barangum Yamare. Here I stand on Bachelor country. Thank you all who have come to attend and support and celebrate on Bachelor country. We ask, when journeying through country, leave only footprints.
They come in and we have workshops all afternoon on the first evening and into the evening. So we get people trained in the tech.
So you want to make sure before you join the Australian version of iNaturalist, you leave it on the iNaturalist network, the global network, join the project, and then it will show up in the Australian one.
We have them learn specific skills they'll need in the field, how to take good photos, what kind of photos to take with their phone cameras. We teach them how to tag the locations using their GPS in their phone, or how to take a track recording if they have DSLR cameras, and how to add that location information later. So there's a lot of setting the people up with the skills so that they can really be good scientists in the field.
A little bit about the system of scientific rigour, because there's a number of components to nature journaling. And when we're involved in a program of citizen science like the BioBlitz or other projects, then it's good to know what scientific process is. For most of us, it's irrelevant because we're not developing a journal that we're going to be handing to a museum.
Yeah.
This is fun. This is something I learned that was interesting of how they actually shake a tree to get everything off.
We go out in the field for a survey that lasts 6 hours. So people pack their lunch and they head out in the field with their scientists. They photograph, they learn, the scientists teach them in the field about their particular speciality, and they are collecting the data then that we use for the records of the species in this area. So we're running from about 7 a.m. with our first bird walks right through to midnight or later. And you can choose what you want to participate in. And that goes to the second day without the afternoon and evening bit, because we leave people time to travel home. So you get to go on 2 field surveys. And you sign up for those on a system where all of the scientists identify where they're going and what they're looking at in specific ways, and then they sign up, so that there's never more than about 10 people in any group. So it's a nice small group experience, and we cover a lot of area that way.
Okay, I'm going to stop that one there. But I think you get the idea of exactly what it looks like. Video off. There we go. In terms of Now I have to stop the share. There we go. There we go. I think you get a good idea then of what a Kalula BioBlitz looks like, and just how different it is too from many other things you might go on. This is a lot more personal and it's a lot more fun. And I do have my kids every single year going, when are we going again? When are we going again? So with that, a lot of our stuff then gets put into iNaturalist, of course, and after a week or so, we get a result of how many species we found, who found what, and is there anything new. Many of these specialists are also. It's also very. Sorry, I just saw Thomas's response there, and it threw me. It also is a lot of fun. It's a lot of walking. It is a lot of walking, and it's a lot of driving too, because this is a very big area. So you're in amongst national parks, you're with scientists, usually from the Queensland Museum, not always, but some of those scientists also have licenses to be able to take back specimens to the museum. So you're really doing this for real. This is not just the photos, this is everything. As such, I think the last one we were on last year, we went and with a spider expert from Queensland Museum, and we were actually looking at trapdoor spiders, so funnel webs, that sort of stuff. And we were digging into burrows to get the females of these spiders. And these spiders are not small and they're extremely aggressive. So my 13-year-old was digging with the expert and finding trapdoors in the ground to dig up them as well. So he had a ball, and the 10-year-old was standing behind him taking the photos. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. But then we got to find out where those photos are used. And I think for that, it's probably over to Siobhan.
Awesome. Thank you, Michelle.
Okay, I'll just share my screen. Give me a second. Sorry about this, taking a little bit of time. Why is it not working? There we go. And share. So hopefully you can see my slides. Can I get a thumbs up?
Yeah, they look good.
Okay, great. So kia ora koutou katoa. I'm Siobhan Leachman. As I've explained, I'm a New Zealand citizen scientist, a Wikipedian, and a digital curator of biodiversity data. Now, I digitally volunteer for multiple biodiversity projects, including transcribing specimen labels and field notebooks, tagging camera trap images, and also taxotagging scientific illustrations. I get out into nature and take part in collecting biodiversity data via the app iNaturalist, which we've heard about. But today I'd like to talk to you about how I undertake citizen science through Wikipedia. Now, I spend time writing Wikipedia articles mainly on New Zealand species, particularly our endemic moths. I gather all the research I can find about a species and then summarize this in a Wikipedia article. Now, the Wikipedia article can include information such as the original scientific description of the species. It could have name changes of the species. It may provide information on similar looking species and how to distinguish between them. It's likely to include where in New Zealand the species can be found, as well as information on its behavior, including host species and perhaps species that prey on it. The article may also give information on whether the species is at risk or endangered. Now, my motivation for spending my time undertaking this work is that Wikipedia articles are openly copyright licensed, and as such, a lot of internet search engines, websites, apps, and citizen science groups reuse these articles. Now, take, for example, the internet search engine Google. Once a Wikipedia article has been written about a species, it very often becomes one of the top results when someone actually searches for that species on Google. And the text of a Wikipedia article is also reused on multiple websites. The one that motivates me the most to do this work is the reuse of these articles by iNaturalist. Now, we've explained about iNaturalist, so obviously you know about it. It's a website and app that empowers citizen scientists to take photos of biodiversity on their smartphones and then upload those images into the iNaturalist website. And then other iNaturalist participants, including experts, come along and attempt to identify that observation to research grade at the species level. Now, once the observation in iNaturalist is identified to research grade, the image and the data attached to it can be aggregated into GBIF, the Global Biodiversity Information Facility. Now, GBIF is an international network and data infrastructure funded by the world's governments and aims to provide anyone, anywhere, with open access to data about all types of life on Earth. Scientists, policymakers, citizen science groups, and more reuse this aggregated data to obtain knowledge about species and also to help make policy decisions about biodiversity. If a Wikipedia article exists for a species, iNaturalist ingests that article and places it on the About tab on the iNaturalist species page. Now, this reuse helps citizen scientists correctly identify species in the field and can also assist those identifying observations to research grade on the iNaturalist website. So the Wikipedia article therefore plays a part in ensuring that the data on iNaturalist is of good quality, and in turn that the aggregated data about that species in GBIF is also accurate. And good quality data plays a part in obtaining better quality policy decisions about conservation and preservation of biodiversity. And that's why I spend my time writing Wikipedia articles. So when creating a species Wikipedia article, I'm always keen to make sure it has great images, because a picture is really worth 1,000 words when you're trying to help folk correctly identify species. And in order to add an image into a Wikipedia article, that image has to be made available in Wiki Commons. Wiki Commons is a media repository that collects together openly reusable images, both for possible reuse in Wikipedia, but also by anyone who may want to reuse those images for any other purpose. For an image to be placed in Wiki Commons, it either has to be in the public domain or openly copyright licensed by the copyright holder for that reuse. So if an image is in copyright, the copyright holder has to license the image under 3 Creative Commons licenses. Choose one of them. The image could be licensed under CC0 license, or the Creative Commons Attribution license, otherwise known as CC BY, or the Creative Commons Attribution Share Alike license, CC BY SA. Now, I'm lucky in that many museums and natural history institutions in New Zealand, and as well as in Australia, openly license their images, either on their own websites or when they upload their images and data into GBIF. So when I'm writing a Wikipedia article, I make sure I upload some of those expertly identified images sourced from natural history institutions into Wiki Commons, and then I reuse them in the Wikipedia article. And on this slide, you can see some beautiful openly licensed images of specimens that have been expertly identified and made available for open reuse by the New Zealand Natural History Institution, Manaaki Whenua Landcare Research. But the great thing is, once those images are added to Wiki Commons, I can not only reuse them in the Wikipedia article, I can also reuse them directly into iNaturalist. I can curate the images in the iNaturalist species page and add to it those expertly identified images obtained from Wiki Commons. Again, this can help citizen scientists correctly identify species in their own iNaturalist observations. And of course, iNaturalist users themselves have the option of openly licensing their own images in iNaturalist. So if they do so, I can then reuse those openly licensed research grade images that citizen scientists have uploaded into iNaturalist. I can add them to Wiki Commons and then the Wikipedia article, which is fabulous because iNaturalist images tend to show species that, that are alive rather than the preserved or specimens shown that I've shown previously in natural history institutions. Now, at the moment, the default license in iNaturalist that's placed on observation images is the Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Use license. This is not an open license. So images with this license cannot be reused in Wiki Commons and can't be reused in Wikipedia. So I'd like to encourage anyone here who contributes to iNaturalist to consider the copyright license they're releasing their images under, and to think about openly licensing them for reuse. Now, the easiest way to change license settings in iNaturalist is to log into your account either on your laptop or on the internet browser on your phone. You can't actually change the license within the app. You then go into your account profile, go to the account drop-down menu and pick account settings. You then go to the content and display section. You can then choose the license under which you release your observation data, your images, or your sound recording. If you do decide to change your reuse license, consider updating the license for all your existing observations by ticking the box below, and remember to press save. Now, I've licensed all mine under the most generous terms possible. That is a CC0 license. Anyone can use anything I've uploaded into iNaturalist for any purpose, including commercial use, without asking my permission or having to credit me. But I recognize this license may not suit everyone. If you want to be credited, choose the Creative Commons Attribution license, the CC BY license. And of course, if, for example, you're a professional photographer who makes money from your images, you may choose not to change your default license. But thank you to those who are considering openly licensing their data and images. If you do decide to change the default, your images may end up in WikiCommons and may be reused in Wikipedia articles for the benefit of everyone. I encourage all citizen scientists to think about how they license their own data, their images, and their generated content for reuse. The more open you are, the more likely it is you create this virtuous cycle of reuse and help improve knowledge about biodiversity for everyone. So thank you.
That was awesome. I'm about to click save to change my licensing permissions. So you have impacted change today. I had no idea. This was awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this
we're
is
done.
why I wanted Siobhan to speak, because she is the expert in this.
Well, I'm not the only one reusing the images. There's actually a big group who do biodiversity articles in English Wikipedia. And we often write articles about species where we just cannot find openly licensed images. And that includes on iNaturalist. So if folk can think about openly licensing their images, it means that the Wikipedia article will actually be illustrated, and then everyone gets to know what these species look like.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic.
Okay.
I see a question in the chat. Samantha wants to know, can you license specific images?
Yes, yes, you can. You can do each individually if you like. I find that a bit, because I take a reason, if I go out iNaturalizing, I never just take one photo.
Mm-hmm.
I'm normally out there
Mm-hmm.
doing a whole load. So I just change the default, but you certainly can just change the license for just one if you want to. And I have asked people to do that when I'm desperate for an image, even if the person who's taking the image is a professional photographer. I just go in and put a message on iNaturalist and say, please, we have no image that I can find for the species. Would you please be generous enough just to change one image to openly license it so that I can have it on Wikipedia? And most of the time people are very happy to do that.
Well, I must admit, one of my biggest thrills on iNaturalist was actually when someone came in and said, hey, we've used that photo on Wikipedia. Here's the link. I'm like, ooh, really? Great.
I try so hard to say, I'm uploading yours to WikiCommons. Thank you so much for openly licensing your images. And then when I actually do put it in a Wikipedia article, I'll leave a message on their observation to say, I've used your image in a Wikipedia article. You can see it here. But I've got to, I hope it thrills them. But I enjoy doing it.
We have another question in the chat. This might be a good one for maybe Thomas to answer. Robin just asked, could you please explain the difference between the Seek by iNaturalist app and the iNaturalist app?
So Seek is designed more for younger users or for more casual users. And the reason for that is that you don't have to put in any profile details or information. and you're essentially not interacting with any other members of the community. So the way that your observations are getting identified is through iNaturalist's computer vision. So if anyone who's ever used something like Google Lens before, it operates on the same principle. There is essentially a computer program that is trying to guess what species you observed. So, you take a photograph of a plant in Seek. There is no person telling you what the plant is. It is computer vision giving an educated guess as to what it is. The iNaturalist itself also has computer vision, but then also has the human identifying component. If you are using the Seek app and you do want to have more of that interactivity, you can then choose to sync your observations and have them go into iNaturalist as well. But Seek is a really good option if perhaps you've got someone who's very young, 10 years old or something, and normally under iNaturalist protocols, they wouldn't be able to have their own account. So Seek is a great introducer, a great gateway to iNaturalist for younger users.
I might probably add too that Seek doesn't work very well in Australia. It doesn't. I don't think it has enough stuff yet to really tell the difference between Australian stuff and American stuff, and it defaults a lot to the American stuff, and it can be quite disappointing for some of the young users, I must admit. Thomas, would you?
So to add on to that, the reason for that is that Seek uses a very old version of the computer vision model. So within iNaturalist itself, a new computer vision model is now uploaded every single month. And so that model is improved based on iNaturalist data. And so it's getting better and better all the time. But at the moment, the Seek app uses a very old version. And so as Michelle says, it's kind of heavily biased towards Northern Hemisphere species. So if you do want better suggestions, then iNaturalist is the way to go.
Yeah, I go to look at a passion flower or something like that. It tells me I've got, what's the one with 3 lobes in the Northern Hemisphere? Is it
ivy?
Stingy? Yeah, the poison oak or poison ivy. So what it tells me I have. I'm just like, no, there's none of that here in Australia. But having said that, I'm a scout leader here in Australia, and I do usually the little tiny ones, the joeys, the 5, 6, 7-year-olds, and we actually use iNaturalist with them. But we do it so that the parents do the sign in, and we show the kids how to use it properly and everything like that. But it's only on the app, so they can't talk to anyone that way. And that was one of the big things about privacy and stuff. And we always make sure that their results are obscured in terms of area. I mean, it's fine if they're at the Scout Den, it's understandable. That's fine. But if they're at home, we remind their parents they might want to obscure their home ones.
And just a note for the people watching on Facebook, we are monitoring the comments over there. So if you have a question, don't be shy. But I have a follow-up question for Thomas. So tell us about this award that Michelle mentioned. How'd you get it? Why'd you get it? We're going to put you on the spot and embarrass you a little bit.
So this was a project based on the bushfires. So for people not from Australia, across 2019, 2020 summer, there were some of the worst bushfires on record across the entire eastern coast of Australia. And so a lot of not only human impact, of course, but a lot of devastation to natural systems. And so in January of 2020, a group of us at the University of New South Wales, led by Casey Kirchhoff, another PhD student, we created the Environment Recovery Project on iNaturalist. And so that was designed to get people out into areas that had recently burnt and been affected by the bushfires, and making observations of both things that had been killed, but also things that had survived or things that are coming back into the firegrounds after the fires. And so over the course of a couple of years, we now have well over 20,000 observations from firegrounds, not just in Eastern Australia now, but across the whole country. And then last year, as an extension of that, we ended up organising 3 bioblitzes at 3 locations in New South Wales where the fires had hit particularly badly. And so we had, across the 3 events, almost 150 people come to the bioblitzes and do a real concerted effort over the course of a weekend to get even more data. And yeah, we ended up getting a Eureka Prize for innovation in citizen science for that work. So that was a a really, really amazing project to be involved with. I got to work with a lot of really amazing people and meet members of the public, and yeah, collect a lot of really valuable data.
Fantastic. And then we have another question in the chat. Maybe Michelle could answer this one. Robin asked, are there any bioblitzes in other Australian states?
Yes, but usually not at this time of year because, of course, down under we're about to go into winter. The City Nature Challenge is coming up at the end of this month, and I know there's, I think, 5 areas in Australia currently participating. Redlands went on the board last night, which is mine. Greetings from Quandamooka country, and the Greater Sydney, Greater Melbourne, Greater Adelaide, and I think Geelong areas were the ones that are currently going. There is a worldwide project, so if your area is not in that, you can jump on the worldwide project and join that. Otherwise, from that, we've got Great Southern BioBlitz coming up at the end of the year, and we're looking for participants. We're waiting until the City Nature Challenge finishes, and then we'll be sending out the call from there. I know, Siobhan, there's quite a few cities, I think, in New Zealand as well doing City Nature Challenge too. Yeah.
It's
So
not
yes.
again. It's not ideal for Australia and New Zealand timing wise because it's it's late autumn, winter. But
it's late autumn,
Wellington,
winter, and it's and it's also around long weekends and stuff that we have here too, which are when people aren't in the city, they tend to leave the city. So yes, City Nature Challenge doesn't really happen. So yeah, that can, because we've got Anzac Day coming up too at the end of this year, at the end of this month, which is Australian New Zealand Army Corps. So it's a military type one. Otherwise, from that, have a look in your local area. You can also look at the Australian Citizen Science Association website. And Facebook pages and so forth. We often post up that one's coming up. There's one, I believe, down in Victoria, beginning of May as well, coming up. Yeah, there's a couple I've posted recently. So yeah, watch the space. You can also invent your own.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Thomas?
Yeah, absolutely. There's no real limits on how small a BioBlitz has to be, whether number of participants or area or amount of time. So if you've got a local group of enthusiasts just living in your local neighborhood, you can definitely organize them to go out, and even just over a couple of hours in your local park or reserve, and it's all valuable data.
I had a fabulous time doing a BioBlitz in Wellington for the local Wellington Botanic Gardens. And we had it all set up, and then two Wikipedians turned up, and we sat there and we wikified the event. So if someone brought in something and someone said it was a particular species, we'd go try and take a nice photo of that species and improve the Wikipedia article for the species while the scientist was talking to the citizen scientist who brought in the images or the observations or the interesting piece of plant or whatever. It was really, really a great event.
Yeah, and I know several schools around the place, particularly here where I am in Southeast Queensland, that they actually have a permanent, basically, BioBlitz set up in their school zone, and so they've got a permanent school zone on iNaturalist, and they will actually do that. Take the kids out at the end of each term and actually do a little BioBlitz at the school, usually on the Friday before everyone goes.
I love it.
Excellent. Gives them something to look forward to.
I know we're almost at time, but I wanted one last question that I thought everyone could answer. So we have quite a few people watching globally. So speaking to a global audience, what do you all think makes citizen science down under and across the ditch unique from citizen science you do anywhere else in the world? Maybe Michelle, do you want to take that one first?
I think we have, both here in Australia and New Zealand, we have some of the most unique flora, fauna, and fungi you'll ever see.
I love it. Siobhan, do you want to go next? What makes citizen science unique in Australia and New Zealand?
Well, for speaking from a New Zealand perspective, it's a very small community. It's one of those situations where everyone in New Zealand, once you meet someone, you then meet someone who knows someone. So it's very quite an intimate and small community. And once you get involved, you see the same faces again and again, and get to know the scientists and stuff. So I really like the fact that it's although there's a lot of citizen scientists, we're not that remotely removed from the actual scientists who are using our data. That's what I like.
All right, Thomas, last but not least, what makes citizen science in Australia and New Zealand unique?
Well, Siobhan stole my point. So I'll come up with another one, which is that so this doesn't necessarily apply to New Zealand, but I think to Australia. And I mean, not really in comparison to the US because they're roughly a similar size to us. But if you particularly compare Australia to many European countries, you'll notice there's a very big size difference. So you can probably fit in just about all of Europe, excluding, say, Russia, into Australia. So the really great thing is that we have this incredibly huge amount of area to explore in citizen science. And there's still so many areas that are very unexplored. So if you were to go somewhere like the UK, it's very, very well naturalized. And there'd be very few corners of the country where there aren't at least some records and the species are very well known. But for Australia, in particular, and I think would also apply to New Zealand as well, but for Australia in particular, just because it's such a vast country with so many very, very remote and difficult to access areas, there's still so much out there to explore and discover. So if you're going on, a road trip and you're driving through the middle of nowhere, stop by the side of the road and take a few photos because they may be the only records of anything in that particular area, which I think is not something that you can do in many of the more European areas or many of the larger US cities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's still heaps here. You look at the heat map on a naturalist, and there's some big gaps in Australia. There's massive gaps in places. I mean, Thomas, you were in WA recently, weren't you?
Yeah, so I've done a few trips in WA recently, and even in areas which are pretty popular tourist hotspots or are close to major roads and centers, there are still very, very few records. So yeah, it's just a matter of if you find yourself in one of these places, if you find yourself away from one of the major cities, just take as many photos and put up as many records as you can, because odds are that area will probably be quite undersampled.
And it's one of the things we tell the Kalula BioBlitz participants too, because there's not a lot of signal up there, because it is a little bit remote, is that go out, take your photos now, and don't try and upload them while you're in the field. Come back to somewhere where you've got Wi-Fi or actually internet and upload them then. Otherwise, you'll kill your battery trying to actually upload. I mean, maybe it's an Australian thing, but yeah, we don't have a lot of Wi-Fi signal or signal in the middle of nowhere. Not all of us have satellite phones. They're a bit expensive. And I just wanted to come back to Carolyn for something you gave the definition of citizen science for America before. I just thought I'd share that the definition for citizen science in Australia is different. So in Australia, the Australian Citizen Science Association's official definition of citizen science is citizen science involves public participation and collaboration in scientific research with the aim to increase scientific knowledge. So as far as we're concerned in Australia, if you're not increasing scientific knowledge, it's engagement. But if you're increasing scientific knowledge, it's citizen science.
Awesome stuff. I think that's the perfect note to end on. I mean, I know it's 11 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, so you all have plenty of time left to get outside, go explore, change your iNaturalist permissions so your pictures can be included on Wikipedia, and make a difference. Any final notes from anybody on the panel before we go?
Just thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, we've actually got AXA's working at the moment with Wikimedia Australia to do a couple of things coming up to workshops and stuff with our members and invited guests on how to use Wikipedia and how to put your citizen science data on Wikipedia, and particularly for those things that are not flora, fungi, and flora, fish based, as Thomas pointed out, the fish are in there too. Where to put that data when Atlas of Living Australia is not really appropriate for it. So something like air quality monitoring or something like that, where do you put that data? So that's what we'll be talking to Wikimedia Australia about coming up.
Fantastic. Yeah, anything else from Thomas or Siobhan?
Any other questions from anyone?
Oh, well, this is perfect. Thank you all for starting off Citizen Science Month on such a great note. I put an event survey in the chat. I also wanted to give one more shout out to Michelle for her Citizen Science Twitter conference. I'll go the handle on Twitter. Get there before Twitter is gone. I think we can all safely say that. It's, this is a good, fun thing that we still have at the moment. You can go to SciStarter and see tweets from all around the world. People tweeted them out at noon in their local time zone on April 1st. And tell you what, if y'all manage to get some tweets out right now, we'll still retweet you, even though it's a little late.
That's okay. Keep going. It's 1st of April somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. It can be 1st of April in our hearts every day. It's always April Fools for me. But yeah, I'm gonna put the link in the chat as well. I'll also put it on Facebook. So get some tweets out there. We'll retweet you. And happy exploring, everybody. Have a good rest of your citizen science month. Bye.